open tonight's meeting, or make a motion that we do. Thursday, April 18th. Does anyone want to second that?
Second. We good, Mike?
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Rebellard?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that Councilman Winters is absent and the time now is 6:19, and the purpose of our executive session is to interview candidates for our open volunteer positions.
Okay. I suggest we close the meeting. What?
You made a motion to go in executive session.
Oh, you didn't make the vote already?
I
I did the one I thought I did one to open the meeting. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it needs to go into executive session. So
Oh, it included
took the
both.
roll,
Okay.
yeah.
God, I didn't think I was that well organized.
did a
Okay.
great job.
So let's stay in executive session then, if that's the case.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay. I'd like to welcome you all to the town board meeting on April 18th, 2024. I move that we exit executive session and return to the regular meeting.
Second.
The time now is 7:21. Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Rebellard?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
And let the record reflect, and for the audience to note that Councilman Winters is absent.
Okay. I swear we did this in a different order last time, but okay. Let's stand up and say, which is over here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Emergency exits for any of you who aren't frequent flyers. It's the door you came in and this door over here. Both exit to the hall. Roll call, Dawn Marie.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes, here.
Council members Rebellard?
Here.
Ham?
Yes, here.
Ahern?
Here.
Winters is going to be noted as absent.
Okay. All right. Then water main break. I'm up. Give me 1 second. So I'm sure many of you were aware that we had a water main break and a water outage last week, just after the earthquake, although we're not throwing stones. We don't know what caused it. And it may not be that. But I wanted to just give you the report I got from Tyler. Raise your hand, Tyler. From VRI. The next morning, I stopped by the site that night, and I was really impressed at how quickly they mobilized, and they really made a pretty extraordinary effort to get it fixed. They stayed through the evening to make that happen. So let me just read what Tyler sent to us. I thought that would be helpful before public comment. So Tyler said, "I want to give you a summary of the events as they occurred last Friday night with some pictures. We received a call around 3 p.m. on Friday that there was water running down the sidewalk in front of the firehouse. We sent an operator to check this out and found a break which seemed to be underneath the sidewalk. We were able to monitor the water storage tank level remotely, so we checked the tank level and found it already dropped a few feet from its normal level. We contacted Stanley Whitehead to perform the excavation, which is kind of tradition, but he was not available Friday evening and said he could only be available the following morning. Due to the rate at which the water storage tank was declining, we didn't feel comfortable waiting until Saturday morning to perform the work and risk draining the tank completely. I've attached a picture of the tank level graph. The break was located about 10 feet from the telephone pole, so we felt it was best to contact Metzger Construction to have them utilize their hydro excavator to keep the excavation as minimal and less invasive as possible. I also contacted UDIG New York to alert other utilities for mark-out purposes, and NYSEG to request they hold the telephone pole while the break was being repaired. All utilities were clear, and NYSEG had arrived with 2 utility trucks to stabilize the pole so it did not fall or kick out on us while excavating. We had to remove a portion of the sidewalk and a small tree in order to access the area with a hydro vac and backhoe. the hydrovac obviously being to suck the water out of the hole so they could see what was going on. We attempted to close valves in the streets surrounding the break to isolate the portion where we were working, but these valves did not hold, and the pipe was still pressurized at the break. The only way we could stop the water so we could make the repair was to close the valve leaving the storage tank. This valve pit was full of water and the electric was not operational. We had to pump this pit out with a sump pump. We will have to install a new sump pump in this pit and replace some of the electric. We will work on this today, that being last week. We also opened hydrants on either side of the break on Mechanic Street to reduce pressure in the line. Once the water slowed enough so the repair could be made, we cut out approximately 4 feet of the ductile iron pipe and replaced it with a plastic section of pipe and 2 Hymaxes, which are the links, I was told. After the repair was completed, we opened 4 hydrants on Mechanic Street, Route 343, and in front of Town Hall to bleed air from and repressurize the distribution system. The water was off for approximately 3.5 hours. To be safe, we collected 2 total coliform samples on Saturday in the distribution system, and both samples passed. And feel free to give me a call. So again, I was very impressed that this happened so quickly. I was very depressed that our previous operator clearly didn't check to see if valves were operational or a number of other things that might have made this go away or might have prevented this from happening or allow it to be ended more quickly. But there we are. So I appreciate that VRI was there, and I was just going to, if people do have questions specifically for VRI, I wanted to give them an opportunity to answer without having to spend the whole evening. So are there any questions from the board or from the audience? Wow, you get to go home. Thank you for being here, though. We appreciate it.
I do have one question.
Oh, you do have a question. Roseanne
Have you
has
had a
question.
chance yet to check any of the shut-off valves to see why they're not working or how to get them working, or?
We haven't yet. We actually are waiting.
Oh, you have to go to the microphone and introduce yourself. Sorry.
I'm Joe McLaughlin. I'm one of the owners of VRI. We haven't yet. We're waiting for a nice stretch of weather that we can actually go around, and we'll have to inform everybody that we're doing it at the time as well, just in case, you know, there'll be a quick spurt of, you know, outages, but we haven't done anything yet. We're making a list of how we're going to do it and try and do it the fastest we can.
And we did mention earlier that we have to come up with some kind of emergency warning system for the town, because at the moment, we don't have one. And the people in the water district couldn't be reached to let them know what was going on. And we're looking at different ways, different apps that we might be able to use to
I actually
do
sent
that.
Bill an email right before we came in here. So the Village of Millbrook has a system that they use. It used to be called Blackboard. I don't know what it's called now. But that actually does phone call, email, and text messages.
Okay.
And I believe a rough number is about $3,000 a year they pay for that.
Yep.
But it's a great tool to have. We use it all the time for water breaks. When we're reading meters, we let everybody know we're in this system just so they know that we're around. I know their DPW department uses it as well, so
And what is it called?
it's,
Oh, okay. Bill sent me the email, so I will,
so you have it.
thank you very much. Glad to hear that. And Brad also mentioned earlier, we've been talking about getting a signboard for in front of Town Hall, one that would change intermittently, but be, you know, solid colored and not very distracting to drivers, so that we can let people know that way.
Yeah,
if there's an emergency.
Weavertuck just put theirs up, I'm sure you're all aware of that. So on 22, Weavertuck Schools, yeah, something to that order, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so, supervisor's report. Damn, thank you anyway.
Supervisor, just real quick, just because they are here, just
Yes.
wanted to acknowledge receipt and circulation of their monthly report,
Oh, good.
as well as their incident report so they are in our packets.
Okay,
Yep, all that.
great. Okay, supervisor's report. The first, thank you, good night. What?
Public comment, anything?
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over public comment, how awful. Public comment, does anyone have anything to say? It wasn't intentional, I swear. Any public comment? Oh! Go right ahead. Mortification.
Walter Dietrich, I don't have a comment, I have a question.
Okay,
And since you're going to be discussing it later tonight, about the cannabis opt-in,
Yep.
So, just because I'm ignorant about this, if you do opt in, the town opts in, is there a chance for the community as a whole to vote on whether they want it or not? Or do you guys decide?
That's an interesting question. What we have to do if we want to move ahead with that is we'd have to write or have written a local law to determine zoning-wise what the impacts would be. And that means that we would need a planner we would first have to talk to the planner about what regulations we think would be appropriate here. Obviously, there are a limited number, but amongst those are how much space there would need to be between dispensaries. The state sets distances away from houses of worship and schools, and we have playgrounds down there too, which are not listed, but we certainly could list, and any number of other things in terms of how many we want to have as a maximum in town, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll talk about that when we talk about the issue. About the cannabis opt-in in general, but that would be the first step. Is that we would have to vote to proceed with hiring a planner to put together a sort of a relatively contained local law. There are a lot of examples of that, so it isn't actually such a big deal to do because lots of other communities in this area have already done that. So we're hoping that could be done fairly quickly, and that the members of the board will also have to come to some agreement about what issues they want addressed in the plan. Charlie, you look like you're standing at the podium about to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to have a public comment.
Oh, you go right ahead, Charlie.
Hi, Charlie Miller from Wasaic. And the local law is subject to permissive referendum, so 5%, if 5% of the registered voters in the town sign a petition, that will require then for it to be put on the ballot for a vote. Okay, yeah. So I noticed that discussion of term limits is, I'm sorry, was that, I think I was right there, right, Ian? Permissive referendum?
No, I don't think that local law is subject to a permissive referendum. It would be well, there would be a number of local laws. First, you'd have to do a local law to change zoning. That's my recommendation to the board, to do that so you can regulate before you opt in. Second local law would be to rescind the prior local law which opted out, and then you would pass a new law to opt in for dispensaries only, which is what I believe the board is only considering. Right. That would be subject to public hearings, and comment would...
But the zoning change requires permissive referendum. Zoning change is subject to permissive referendum.
I don't believe that's true either.
Well, all zoning changes are subject to permissive referendum in New York. So I noticed that term limit discussions were on the agenda.
Yes.
So I wanted to voice my opposition to term limits and for the town board taking up, I guess, creating a law that would establish some kind of term limits. In my opinion, the residents of the town or any town have the opportunity to create a ballot initiative. They can petition, and it can be put on the ballot for the fall if there is such a demand for that. That's done frequently. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes?
I might need one extra minute, is that okay?
An extra minute?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you have to time this at home?
I might need, no, I didn't sign it, but I might just need just an extra minute and a half.
Okay.
Okay. I would like to discuss the workforce in Amenia. We need to create more jobs for
Oh,
our...
I'm sorry, name.
Oh, Anna Vecchio, resident of Amenia. I would like to discuss the workforce in Amenia. We need to create more jobs for our residents so families can afford to pay for housing, and we can create a new medium income for the area that is comparable to other areas. There are many people that are in need of jobs and housing in the area because it is rural. Rural does not give residents a good opportunity at a career or advancement in a career in any way. We need to give our residents opportunity for a better standard of living and life for their family. First, I do not see a master plan for the town that includes this at all, just a recreation master plan that includes most of Wasaic A new master plan for the town and an updated one needs to be creative and innovative, well thought out plan. After that plan is created, you can allot for a few, maybe 3 or 4 mid-sized companies to invite into the town. You choose your selection that will fit the town, your values, your culture. No companies will enter unless the town master plan is created and updated done. It must be more inviting for companies and their employees and for our residents. You can create at least 1,000 jobs or more for the area that pays a decent salary to our residents. You will know after a vision is created, the companies that come in create their own type of housing that is needed for their employees at their cost. Example, a less tax incentive to draw for a certain amount of years that would draw in companies of your choice. These are just examples that I'm saying. Maybe some type of agricultural company that grows food on a large scale, mid-sized company that will employ at least 80 to 100 employees. Another example, maybe a large dairy farm will employ 200 employees. You can collaborate with Cornell Extension, Millbrook agricultural portion. They have the expertise. Another example, we can mix it up a bit. Maybe a biotech company that employs 200 to 500 employees or more. Also, maybe a market with fresh produce, where the old dealership is in town, a country market that can employ 30 employees. There is also a stretch of swampland to the right of Dollar General on the right side of the road. You can backfill and create stores there. You could add antique shops, country shops, boutiques, maybe a large antiques auction center somewhere in Amenia as well, a country lodge brewery with fireplaces, a mid-size outlet center near the train station. These are just examples for a country town. This will create a vibrant country town and jobs for all. You can do an overview of what the town already has and see what type of businesses you would like incorporated into the town. Nothing, this is important, nothing that will affect our small to mid-sized local businesses. No need to duplicate what we have already. Giving opportunities for agricultural jobs and other types of jobs, more opportunity, broaden the horizon for job seekers. Rural towns do not have good paying jobs nor medical, meaning it takes over a month or more for a patient to get an appointment as well, and good pays for families and not enough doctors. We need to create a vibrant family country town that has opportunities. Hard to employ doctors do not want to come here because of the pay and it's rural. The rentals have become expensive and the salaries in this area do not match at all the rentals. It's just not a balance correctly. We need to make our own town more cost-friendly and less expensive than others. We'll attract some companies and people to the area as well as job seekers as well. It is a balancing act. To me, it does not balance the way it is currently. High rentals and low salaries do not balance. Someone needs to break open the books, analyze things financially, and do some creative analyzing and innovative thinking and balance things out correctly. This is not a small task. This needs to be done correctly. This should be included with the master plan creation. Again, like I stated in the past, a rural town, not a city town. A vibrant, family-friendly country town is cost-friendly and less expensive, and opportunities for residents and others that may move here. I have expressed myself in the past. If you would like to hear my vision, I would need more time to discuss it, not just 3 minutes. I dislike the saying, this is important to me. I dislike the saying, this is the way it is. No, I believe make it the way you would like for your town. Let's make a change and mark and make it different.
Thank you, Hannah. Any other public comment?
Hi, Kent Topolsky, Amenia. Just want to make a note on item 5 when you discuss it, the bonding for the new highway garage. And I did send a note to you, Supervisor Blackman, about this. The cost of remediation of the current highway garage, given the chemicals, given that it's been there since 1955, remediating a gas station, regular old gas station on the corner in Oklahoma and Texas runs about $250,000. In California, it could run as much as $1 million to take care of the ground, make sure groundwater is safe, and all that. New York State will be on the higher end or our garage will be on the higher end given the New York State environmental concerns. I suggest strongly that if you do float a bond issue, you include the remediation and the cost of remediation of the current highway garage so that that land can be used by the community or sold, but will be healthy and safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to assume that's a no. Oh, the supervisor's report. Look, I did bring water tonight. Just have to find it.
I can't find it. I had it.
So, the last 2 weeks. Rosanna's been leading the charge on this, and we'll probably talk about it in more detail later. But we've heard the idea expressed by many people who want a senior swim class. Well, not a class, a senior swim time. And Rosanna spoke to the people at Maplebrook and even the lifeguards at the pool at Maplebrook about, maybe staying an extra hour, and we just met with Bill Hale at Maplebrook this week to discuss what their terms might be for using the pool a couple of times a week for a senior swim. It seemed like pretty doable, except for the fact that there's apparently a shortage of lifeguards, but I'll let you sort of give more information later. Okay. I met with Dawn, Megan, and Chris Howard, who's the chair of the Emergency Operations Committee, and the Amenia Fire Department chief. We set a meeting for the end of the month to look at emergency planning issues. Obviously, we've had some come up recently in response to the earthquake and water main break. As I had said to the people from BRI, the biggest problem is we don't have a system in place, which we will try to figure out. But just to let you all know, and to those in TV land, we really need to get emails and cell phone numbers for people if you want to get information from us in an emergency. There's no other way to do it. So when we ask for that, respond kindly. On the highway garage, I marked up John Andrews' draft request for proposal, seeking an engineer architectural firm to draw up the highway garage and supervise construction. We're hoping to get that out to bidders in a week or two. If you didn't have a chance last time, do look at the boards in the hallway, which explain the project in some detail. On the water district, I read VRI's letter, obviously, and I can't say enough about how great their crew was. We will next be sending out a request for proposals for engineers, hydrological engineers, to test the water quality at Lavelle Road. And there's a concern about the water from the pond, or the surface water, actually getting into the well piping. The wells go all the way down into rock, but they just want to make sure that that isn't a problem that we're not aware of. They also need to make sure that everything can fit on that site that's required, including potentially some new filters if there's a contamination issue. In any event, and the Water Committee has been looking at ways to structure the fees. On the gymnasium floor, Tracy Saladay, the architect for the project, was able to find a second vendor for the Herculeum rubber product. We met with vendor and installer, actually. We met him earlier this week. That still seems like the best option for the gym floor, but the quotes received suggest the total cost may exceed $35,000, so we'll require a formal bid process, and we'll send out an RFP for that quite soon. On the town hall interior, I've spoken to the heads of both the ZBA and the planning board about combining boardrooms, and promised them we would test the room before making it permanent, making this arrangement permanent. And I also sent an email to the members of both boards explaining why I think the change is important. We hope the room will be set up and ready by May 15th, because our next board meeting is the 16th, and we'll have video feed available for all three. Did we tell you that, Mike? No. May 15th, okay, I was getting to it, I know. Also, Stone Leaf was given a go-ahead to stripe the town parking lot, and that also should start as soon as we have a stretch of dependable dry weather. Elected officials, County Executive Sue Serino was in Amenia this week, and we met for an hour about the town's infrastructure needs and programs to pay for them. She's working on a plan to provide county EMS vehicles to fill in when ours is called away from the town. I also suggested she might find a way to cover the time and expense involved for volunteers to attend mandated training, and she thought that was a good idea. Northeast Community Center, I spoke to NECC Director Christine Sargent about next steps for setting up a satellite office, and she's already been thinking with staff about reviving the farmers market and providing after-school jobs for teens. In terms of downtown improvements, James Ollinger, who was responsible for the signs that we looked at previous meetings, brought the first one for me to see, and it looked great, and I don't know how long it's going to take to put them up, but I would imagine within the month. George Whalen of Bank of Millbrook is still reviewing plans for Fountain Square. Jeff Barnett-Winsby was able to dig out a survey for The Lantern, his restaurant, which doesn't quite answer the question of who owns the center of Wassaic, but it gets us a little bit closer. I stopped by to see the owners of the new bakery on Main Street this afternoon. They're opening Friday, and they were very nice. How about that? I know. I didn't bring a bundt cake, though. It seemed inappropriate. I've been making calls about a new home for Vitsky Bakery in Wassaic because it seems like they're about to be thrown out of the Green Barn, and they're a pretty critical economic engine for Wassaic. And this week, I met with not one but two Silo Ridge residents who are interested in financial support for downtown activities, businesses, and projects. So that was a great thing, and they were very enthusiastic, so that's kind of wonderful. The sidewalk extension, I attended a kickoff meeting at Beekman Park for the sidewalk extension that's been in the works for a very long time. The engineer, contractor, and site superintendent, once they get started, which should be a few weeks, work is expected to take less than 2 months. So hopefully we'll see that midsummer. Earth Day. Amenia's Climate Smart Community Task Force is joining the Millerton Group to celebrate Earth Day this year in Amenia. The event will be held at Town Hall on Saturday, April 20th from noon to 4 p.m. The Amenia Garden Club will be hosting a free talk that day at 2 p.m. in the auditorium by the new head gardener of Weathersfield, Jeffrey Lynch. Earth Day festivities in the gym and on the lawn include hands-on fun and games for families, student projects, information on making your home more energy efficient, on heat pumps and solar panels, native plants and healthy streams, electric bikes. There'll be a composting demo, a raffle, a live band, and food from Blackbird Cafe and Four Brothers. So that's this Saturday. Okay, that's me. Oh,
I'm
holding
just
up the
showing, well,
poster.
you know, we
Thank
have
you.
artists in town, so we got to give them,
Yes, we do have artists in town that didn't list any of what's happening,
And
but that's
that's
all right. We love them anyway.
Keep going. One more announcement?
Oh, thank you very much. Sorry. There also is going to be a repair cafe, which was done last year at the Town Hall Gym. That's in 2 weeks, May 4th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. What it is they have a bunch of people who can fix things, ready to repair items that you bring, including clothing. They can fix seams and hems, bikes, make minor repairs and blow up tires, furniture and wooden objects, polish, shine, and glue, lamps, repair electrical and reattach parts, electronic small appliances, repair electrical circuitry and reattach parts, and sharpening knives. So all of those people will be there. They ask for a donation if they do work for you, but otherwise it's all free. So you're warned.
So Leo, regarding the emergency response meeting, that is set for Tuesday, April 30th at 6 p.m.
Yes, although we haven't heard from everyone yet, which was the problem last
So
time.
we're not confirmed yet?
Well, we have to get answers from more people than have actually answered so
Okay.
far.
So that's yet to be determined.
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, I will make a note to see how we're doing in getting responses. Okay, Dawn, you're up.
great. So we're going to go over some housekeeping items, our April 4th minutes, you guys had the opportunity to review. Yes.
A yes?
Motion,
I'll move that we accept them.
Leo,
I second.
Rosanna. Supervisor Blackman,
Yes.
Councilpersons Revelard.
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Ahern.
Yes.
And Winters is absent. Also sharing with the board and our public that our tax collection is underway. Our second notices were mailed this week, so if you get that notice in your mailbox, please be mindful of there are due dates on there. The letter does print out through April 30th. If you are looking for your May payoff balances, please visit our website at www.ameniany.gov or give us a call here in the office. We'll be glad to give you that final payment number. But for our tax collection to date, $6,763,698.58, with penalties collecting $6,636.53, with a remaining uncollected balance of $2,863,237.64. And to give you guys an idea, that's 70% of our total number of parcels. Presenting to the board, as you guys have had the opportunity to review, I'm requesting authorization for the supervisor to pay claims as follows. General Fund A in the amount of $115,161.62. Highway Fund, $21,507. Amenia Lighting, $1,202.87. Wasake Lighting, $448.38. And Amenia Water, $15,152.16, for a total amount on this abstract dated this date, $153,472.04. Is there a motion to authorize the supervisor to pay claims?
I make a motion to authorize the payment.
A second.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes?
Council members Rebellard?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
I also present to you guys with regret, there's 2 resignations, and that's on behalf of our planning board. And the first one being Matt Deister, and our second being Neil Kuznick.
I move that we accept those with regret.
I second.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes?
Council members Rebellard?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Thank you. You guys have had the opportunity to interview some candidates, I know at the beginning of the meetings.
I make a motion to appoint Mary Uter, if that's her name, I'm sorry if I pronounced it incorrectly, to the Water Commission.
I'll second that.
Committee? Leo? Supervisor Blackman?
Yes?
Council members Rebellard?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Anything else?
Oh. Oh, you want me to?
Oh, do you want- yeah.
And I guess I'll make a motion to appoint Vicki Doyle to the CAC committee.
I second.
Okay. Supervisor Blackman?
Yes?
Council members Rebellard?
No.
Ham?
I'd just like to
Yeah.
add that there were more candidates, that's all I'm going to say on it.
And Ahern?
Yes.
Thank you. Also, with that being said, as we have the openings on planning board now, so I'm going to seek authorization to not only advertise for our planning board seats, we do still have the open wastewater and recreation commission
Right.
seat, as well as for constable applications.
Okay, please, I move that you do so.
Leo?
I'll second. But just tell me again, it was 1 recreation, 2 planning, and what was the other one?
There's 2 planning, recreation, wastewater, and constables.
Wastewater, okay.
Okay. Supervisor Blackman?
Yes?
Council members Rebellard?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Also acknowledging circulation receipt in our packets or via email, our balance sheets, our operations statements, the building department report for this month that show, well, for the month of March activity, showing a total number of searches being 7, fire inspections being 10, building permits being 22, for a total money collected $7,672.50. And also accompanying this report is the status report for violations. And that is all the reports that I am acknowledging tonight.
Okay.
One last thing, we do have a community event going on this weekend. It's the last weekend if you want your nice big chocolate chip pancakes, eggs, and bacon at the Amenia Firehouse. Come on down to the Amenia Fire Company and support their last pancake breakfast of this season. And if not, you're going to have to wait till September.
And what time is that?
Starts at 7:30 in the morning, goes all the way to 11.
pancakes
It's a
are
great
excellent.
time.
And they have chocolate chips still?
Chocolate
do,
chip
yes.
and blueberry, as as well as plain. They're all really good and delicious, so please come support.
So I have a question regarding the status report of violations. Well, some of these go back a while, and maybe Ian can answer this. I mean, at what point, you issue violations that, what's the policing power of this, to the point where we just stop issuing violations and saying, well, this is going to happen next? I mean, I don't follow some of this. And some of this is cut off too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's a violation issued, they should be in court. Some of these matters may be in court already, and they could be working towards compliance in that matter. I don't do the prosecutions on these, so I don't know the status of where they may or may not be in court, but I'm looking at the status, and many of these state first court date, first court date, first court date.
Right.
So they're presumably working with the town prosecutor to bring them into compliance.
Okay.
It's really frustrating, Brad, and it has been that way for a long time. I mean, there are people who are repeat violators who, allow pigs to run onto their neighbor's property and have a whole bunch of rusting cars in their front yard. And I don't know why our building inspector isn't allowed to address that, but it does seem like it has to go through the courts. I didn't realize until recently that it's actually our Amenia court that makes these decisions. And I spoke to the prosecutor to see if there was anything else we could do, like levy fines weekly until it's fixed and that kind of stuff. And I think that actually is doable, but there's the next time that building department stuff is coming up, I think is either May 20th or May 27th. I can let you know that, but I plan to attend that because I just feel like, there's no end to these things, and it's really frustrating, really, really frustrating for the building department, and frustrating for people who live next door to people who are a menace.
Right, because
So-
our building inspector constantly does these violations and notice of remedies, but nothing's enforced,
Right.
is where the problem lies.
That's the whole issue.
I mean, that's really it, is that there can be a notice of remedy, but if people, if people don't pay the money that is
And I believe
levied
everyone here
against
would
them.
pretty much have witnessed this kind of thing, so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And just for the board to be noticed and the public, I will be out of the office Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for the annual town clerk conference. I am still checking my emails, they go to my phone, so I'm not completely away, but Erica will be in the office.
Great, thank you. Are there other board and committee reports?
I'm going to do recreation.
Thank you, Nicole.
So Katie's away, and I will do the recreation director's report. It's summer camp registration is open. We need kids to sign up to make summer camp great. Registration is available at ameniany.myrec.com. We will be having in-person sign-ups soon, date to come. I believe, I'll add to that, we have Community Day, May 4th at the school through the Leadership Challenge program, and Katie will have a booth there. So I'm hoping that parents will come, and if you need help signing up your kids, or if you have questions for Katie, that we can help you there. Summer Music Series starts July 8th at 6 p.m. on the basketball courts outside Town Hall. Senior programming. Seniors have a social on the first Wednesday on each month at 2 p.m. in the Town Hall. Please attend so we can start booking senior trips and activities. The mailer for April, May, and June has gone out. I did get mine. Did you get yours? Please let Katie know if you are not receiving one. The next mailer will be for July, August, and September. If you would like anything on the mailer, let Katie know by the middle of June. We did not receive the grant for the playground at Beekman Park. We'll be looking for other funding to get that piece of equipment fixed. Beekman Park is open, and we're working on a new bleacher setup, mulch, and a handful of other items. Have been looking into a waiver for recreation programs that take place in the building. Also have been working on an activity guidelines packet for programs. And that's all.
That's great, thank you.
I have actually a question, though. We had spoken about actually, you showed us what Norton was doing with the information. So the question I have is, you're going to speak to Katie, did that go through the rec commission?
I'm sorry.
It's the calendar.
Adding other things to that mailer that she sends out, meetings and that.
Oh, I don't think we have did we bring that to our attention, that we wanted to start?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It was brought to her attention? Thank God you're here. Oh, okay.
And it was good, right?
Yes.
All right. Excellent.
Thank you.
And then we have in, two, is the Amenia Annual Town Cleanup is next Saturday, April 27th, from 9 a.m. to noon. They're going to meet at the Bank of Millbrook at Fountain Square. And is it or Borden Park or both? There's going to be a setup at both, I believe, Borden Park and Bank of Millbrook.
Warden Park in Wassaic, just to be clear.
Yes,
Yes.
across from Maxim Mill. And it says sign in at either location and grab some bags, then fan out on local roadways and the rail trail and get the litter. Put it in bags and it will be picked up at various locations. And you can contact Vicki Doyle or any CAC member for the pickup.
And there is a lot of trash out there.
Believe it or not, it does.
Yes.
Rec Commission, DJ's here. Do you have
Wait.
Rec Commission?
Do you want to give a report?
I just
Wait,
did.
Nicole just
Well, I
did.
didn't know for the commission, that was your rec
Director, oh, okay.
People out there, what's being said?
He's not saying anything.
Just,
He's stage fright. Next meeting, he's going to be prepared.
so I'd like to move on to discussion items. A lot of these are things that we've talked about before, and I just would like to sort of see if we can get them to a place where we can have resolutions next time we meet. The gym floor, we realize that we have to have an RFP for that, so Tracy's going to have to prepare that, but we do have a number of quotes, but they're not all in the same format. The cannabis opt-in, so next steps, we were told that the next thing we would have to do is to figure out a local law. In other words, work with a planner to draft a law that incorporates the restrictions that we want to have put on the dispensary. The prices that we'd gotten for a planner to do that were like $25,000 to $30,000, and Ian had suggested that we call, for God's sakes,
Ashley Lay.
Ashley Lay, who did...
Lay?
It's
Ashley.
Ashley, who worked on the zoning changes, and she actually thought that her firm would be able to do it for something in the range of $5,000, which makes me
That
feel
sounds
more...
about right.
Which makes me feel much more positive about proceeding, because I thought otherwise it was an awful lot of money
Yeah.
for something that seems, to have a fairly limited chance of actually happening.
And that would get drawn up before we would even decide to opt in?
Yeah, so if the board wants to proceed to opt in,
Okay.
the first step, my recommendation, is to make sure you have your regulations in place before you pass the opt-in law.
Okay.
You can run them virtually at the same time, but you want to have your regulations set up, because what happened is a lot of these municipalities, they all opted in
Right, and then wrote their,
and had no regulations, and now people are starting to get licensing, which is extremely difficult and has been riddled with hurdles. But if you want to regulate it before you pass the law.
okay.
Hang on
Okay.
one second. Megan, did you have a comment?
No, she had a report, even.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what,
All
yeah. Why don't you give your report now, Megan?
Breaks.
So we're still working on our dirt roads. Seems we get 2 days of sun and then we get the rest of the week is usually rain, then wait for them to dry out. So we're still trying to get them done. Last week we went around and cleaned some of the sidewalks off, all of them, what we could, Amenia, Wassaic. And last month we talked about Tower Hill. We pretty much all discussed already. Just want to go over it again. So last month we talked about that, and then I went out and got the 3 bids off the OGS quick quote. So the 3 bids were Calaruso at $232,400, Callahan at $238,618, Peckham's at $243,667.30. So I suggest we go with Calaruso. They started the project. I was happy that they were the lowest bidder to finish the project. If the board approves, I just contact them tomorrow. They put us on the schedule, and it probably take about 2 days to do. Start date would be June 3rd with a completion date of June 28th.
And we do have a resolution on the agenda, too, so we'll vote on that this evening.
That's all
There
I
were
have.
some letters of support, too.
Letters of support about
Yeah.
the,
I thought there were letters of support as well. Maybe I'm wrong.
for the
For the
highway
project.
stuff?
Say again? I can't hear you.
For the top coat?
You
Oh,
don't need letters of support for that, do you?
No, I just thought it was public knowledge.
yeah, something came in on another road that wasn't,
Oh, it wasn't that one, okay.
no.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
No, that's it.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Okay, so third on the discussion list is the procurement policy. Ian sent procurement policies from a few other towns. You'd already seen one and presumably reviewed it, but I felt like we should wait until after everyone had a chance to read the 4 new ones that arrived.
They all seem to be pretty much the same template, didn't they?
I actually didn't get to read them today. I
Oh,
was
okay.
writing
Actually,
this.
they were pretty much the same, but there were some minor little things that I saw in one of them.
Right.
That, I don't remember exactly what it was, but
They're slightly nuanced, and so I gave, the ones that I chose for you to at least take a look at are comparable municipalities, and some of them I just liked. So there was, there's a number of options to compare, so you can kind of get an idea. That's all.
The
Just
numbers,
perspective.
the numbers were almost identical, though.
You mean the numbers in
ranges
terms of
weren't-
distance and location?
The ranges varied.
Yeah.
The
It was
range is
35 for what type of procurement it was. Yeah,
Correct.
right.
Yeah, and what level of
But even those seem to be close, yeah.
yes.
Well,
but some of those are based on the state, right? I mean, some of those come, like the $20,000 stipulation, isn't that state?
Correct. The 35 and the 20 thresholds, those are state thresholds. It's what's beneath that and where we're getting our 3 quotes, our verbal quotes, our written quotes, what's discretionary spending, like kind of.
I think Rhinebeck was there, for example. Was it Pleasant Valley maybe, in Millbrook? I don't think it was Millbrook, but there were local towns, that was the big.
Yeah, they're all local,
like
close.
Dutchess County, yeah.
Some of them were
Yeah.
very close in size and.
Yeah.
So
Well, if people have specific comments on what they received, why don't you distribute it to the board members so that we can give Ian something specific to base his resolution on?
Right.
For next meeting? Okay. All right. So the Beekman Park concession stand is the next question. So the estimate, the most recent estimate, I think, from the architect was $250,000 to do the renovation, and I just wanted to be sure that that was widely known and that seemed that there would be enough use of it, I guess. I mean, earlier on, I know Paul thought that some food vendor could like rent it for the summer, and that would bring in a fair amount of money to rec. But has anyone tested those numbers since then?
So I wasn't at the last rec meeting.
Okay.
Paul was, but I did see the presentation of the layout she had and
Okay.
the list. And I think, I don't know, maybe DJ, could you speak on this? I'm not sure, did you guys touch on this at the last meeting?
DJ Riley. We're just doing preliminary stuff right now. We have to find out what septic we have there. So we're looking to get engineers right now. We have 3 people that we've contacted. Only one has contacted us back yet to give us any bids on it. So before we can move forward on anything, we have to get that done. But That's a wish list of everything that she's
I was
got. It's not, you know, everything that we're, planning, you know,
Okay.
probably gonna do. We're probably gonna do a couple phases. We may not do the cooking part of it. We may leave the stove and stuff out to a later date, but we wanna have the plan in place. So if we can only afford to do so much, then we'll go on from there.
Great, thanks.
I
I'm a
think
big
that was-
believer in master plans.
I just want to make sure I was correct, because it's more of a wish list, right? Like he said, it was, here's what we're going for the stars, but I think we can, the equipment was expensive. the
Oh,
kitchen
yeah.
Equipment, and I think that's what drove up the cost, really. So if we can take out pieces and not need the full workable kitchen.
Because I remember last summer, we talked about what was necessary to just have packaged food as a sort of a first step.
Which is still a lot.
Which is still a lot, I
It
know.
was shocking.
I know, construction is kind of horrifying. Okay.
You mentioned the kitchen equipment, it's expensive, but
Yeah.
there is a large business for used kitchen equipment. Has that been looked into?
Right, so like this was brand new, top of the line.
Right.
Like, this was shooting pretty high.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Okay. The bonding for the highway garage, Charlie, you've been looking at the numbers and you've been talking to the bond person. Can you talk about that? I mean, in terms of what the process is, because we actually have to do something.
Sure, I
before we
can. And I want to, I completely misspoke about the cannabis local law permissive referendum. I'm sorry, I've been way too deep in a lot of other things, so I'm sorry. I make many mistakes. So what's the question regarding the bonding for?
The question was, you had said that, that in order to move ahead or to think about the bonding, we need to have a board vote on that, yes?
Yes, well, you have to authorize the bonding, which Ian can go through that. I think what the town board needs to understand is to apply for any grants, you also need to have a bond resolution. The bond resolution is ultimately what authorizes the spending for the project and the appropriation. So any kind of grant funding that we would go and apply for requires that. And seeker.
Okay.
Right.
So I believe, you know, a member or two has mentioned about, well, what if we, and the bond resolution is subject to permissive referendum, but a member or two of the board has said, well, why don't we just put it on the ballot as a ballot referendum or, you know, proposition? But that really completely stops the whole process because then we wouldn't be able to apply for any grant funding until that happened. It's just precarious.
Yeah, we would lose half a year, basically.
Right, Ian? Did I summarize that correctly?
It's not required. Essentially, we need to get our seeker review done first, because that's actually part of the bond resolution. Then the bond resolution is subject to a permissive referendum, does require a two-third vote. So there's a bit of a process that we need to get going on, but we should probably coordinate
Yeah.
times, because I don't know the deadline, so if we can talk about that, we'll coordinate it and we'll get it done.
Yeah, totally, right after this. So Bond Council has drafted the resolution for the bonding. Seeker is being prepared by the feasibility study engineer, Labella, who will get that to us by the end of this month. And to keep on the timeline that I've worked out with the supervisor and Megan is that those two things would be passed in the beginning of May. And the seeker can be done, and then 5 minutes later, the bond resolution is passed.
But let's talk after.
Yes, yes, okay, yeah. And for people out in the ether who want to know, this is a project that will require a full EAF as an unlisted project.
Charlie, I had a question, and during public comment, it was brought up that, or a question was asked if the bond would include the current remediation of the current town garage.
So I would have to drill deeper into the feasibility study, the preliminary engineering report. That engineer did not, I don't believe, include, some kind of remediation for whatever may be there. I know that Councilperson Winter has been speaking to DEC, and as part of one of the master plan projects of REC was to take over that piece of property and do remediation. I believe he's mentioned that. That property was a wetland, and so I think that would be it. I think it's a very good point that somebody has brought up about, how to deal with that remediation. I would imagine it would be expensive, and, this is already an expensive project, and remediation isn't a requirement for us to move forward with building a new facility.
Where did you say remediation is not a requirement?
It is not a requirement for us to move forward with the project, no. To remediate, I'm not an expert in that field, but,
I would say because it's not on the same property.
I'm sorry?
I would say because it's not on the same property.
No, we're not doing anything at that
Right.
particular property. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of, to be honest with you, portions of that property are an abandoned landfill. So I don't know if it's a requirement to do any remediation. I think the requirement would come about if you were changing the use of what that property would be.
Which would then fall on rec.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Or it would fall on nobody if it
Or
wasn't
nobody,
used.
right, but-
Yeah.
Is it the town property?
Yes,
It's where the
it's a-
town
it's a-
highway garage
It's
is
a
in
town-owned
Passaic.
property.
Oh, so you own the property.
Ian, do you have a thought on this?
Yeah, I think we have the cart before the horse a little bit here with regards to what's going to happen with that property yet. We would have to do some level of investigation on that property as to what we're going to do with it, what is on that property. At this point, we don't really know.
That's a really good point, and now I'm reminded that the highway superintendent had actually may possibly need to continue using that property for storage of materials or, the byproduct of removing a road that could be used for, so who knows? I also think it's many years down the line before it's completely decommissioned. Would you think, Megan? Not possible? Yeah.
Okay. Paul unfortunately isn't here tonight, but he wanted to put term limits on the ballot. I think there has to be a public hearing. I'm sorry, no. Paul wants to put that on the ballot. I thought that we should discuss that as to whether there's a consensus around that. I personally think it is kind of demeaning to voters to feel like someone else decides how long someone can serve instead of the voter making that decision, but that's just me. But I thought that I don't know, that just did not seem to be a big issue for voters in Amenia. I mean, it just seemed to me like not a big deal, but I don't know. What do you kids say?
I actually agree with you. As a matter of fact, I actually have some concerns about having term limits. We have historically had trouble getting people to step up to run. So if you end up having somebody that's good, that's in office, and nobody else is stepping up, I mean, I think there were several terms that previous supervisors have run unopposed.
Yeah, that's certainly true.
So I think that in this particular community, term limits, and when the voters wanted to change, we got to change, right? I mean, so the voters went to the ballot, went to the polls and they voted. And so I think, not only do I think it's not, I think it's just not a good idea, actually.
I'd love to hear public comment on that one.
Is he proposing different terms for supervisor, different terms for council members, or altogether, how long somebody can serve in any given position?
That's the question that I had with regards to this,
Right?
because
Right.
it may be procedurally different how we operate to get from point A to point B based on what exactly is being proposed, and that I'm not clear on. So
Originally, we had a conversation with Anil, and he had said that he did this with Fishkill, and I believe it was 16 years was the limit, but I believe Paul decided that he wanted to make it 12, is the last I heard, correct?
Right,
Yeah.
that's right. No, we had a previous discussion with Emil Beefin and Paul about this, and he, again, Fishkill had done this, and apparently it's working, but they had good reason to do it. I don't remember what it was, but Yeah, like I said, I really would love to know what how the public feels about this whole thing.
We could ask them,
Yeah.
Brad.
Got some.
Not right now,
Not
because
right
we're not
now,
in public
but-
comment.
But I really am curious, yeah.
Do we, if we're having public comment, does that get posted if we want to do that?
Well,
Or is that
you
just
had,
something that happens in
it's amazing because
public
you had
comment?
public comment at the start of your meeting and the agenda item is listed, so anyone could have made public comment as we had somebody in the audience make public comment on that. So, I mean, it was there. So in the past, this is not the first time that this has come up in the last 20 years. We've had this, the previous board had this conversation, and what they end up doing is they end up drafting to change the law, and then they had public comment, and at that time, part failed and part did not. So, I mean, we've seen that, and so you guys understand, it was from my position as town clerk. I used to be every 2 years, the same, and we were on the same calendar as the supervisor. And when it was brought up, it was that when it went, I passed and the supervisor did not. So that's how I got changed to 4. After it changed here, then it went out onto the ballot and, you know, didn't take effect that year. I had to wait a whole another year. I mean, there was a whole process to it in the laws, and Ian will.
But that's length of a term, not
Length of the
limit.
term, not as term limits, so they went from 2 years to 4 years. So that was one, because interchanging term limits and terms are 2 different things. So
Right.
that's the first thing for clarification. Are you talking about changing the supervisor from a 2-year to a 4-year? That's one. Or are you talking total years of service?
Originally, the conversation was both. He wanted to move supervisor from 2 to 4. I know that was,
That wouldn't impact me, I hope.
yes, you're stuck 2 more years.
It'd be the next general election thereafter.
Correct, Brad, was that, yes. And
So-
then council members, I think, would just stay the same.
Keeping it at 4.
Right.
But then with
And
a
then-
max of running for 3
Yes.
concurrent terms.
I would also like to see how comparable communities have dealt with this. So Fishkill is a much bigger area, obviously, a much bigger population. They have a much bigger pool of candidates, so that's a little bit different. So I would like to find out basically how other municipalities of our age, or our size,
Roseanne, I'm on the Dutchess County Supervisors and Mayors Board, or it isn't a board, group. And I will send an email to everyone tomorrow and ask them how many towns actually have that and how it works. So we at least have some comparable data.
So
Great, thank
the
you.
town of Fishkill supervisor and town board positions will be subject to a limit of 2 4-year terms.
It's 8.
Oh, also they only allowed, supervisor only allowed 8 years total.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, I like the idea of 4 years for supervisor only because you get in for 2 years and you do all this work and you're just getting started to then have somebody.
It does take a while to learn.
To then have somebody else possibly have to start over. So I do like the idea of the 4-year for supervisor. The total time I'm not sure on. I think that would be, I'd like to hear from the public on that, on
Okay.
limiting the total time.
Okay?
The board would like, I could try to find a couple samples that are floating around and
Sure.
and circulate.
It sounds like we have one for Amenia somewhere in a drawer.
Yeah, it was before my time, but I am aware that Amenia had attempted this once
Okay.
before. And maybe more than once, actually.
Okay. Okay, so a number of grant applications are available for both the garage and the water district. Charlie, since you've been dealing with grants, do you want to talk about that, or should I just leave that alone until we're looking at some actual grants?
I can just tell you one thing. I think with the water district, the water district's an extremely important public service that has a number of issues. The Lavelle Road wells and pump house are going to be expensive. I imagine between $1 and $1.5 million. It will be very similar to the highway garage in that, we will need to hire a engineering firm to do a preliminary engineering report. And I think further on your agenda is authorizing a request for qualification, an RFQ. So there are a number of things that we have to do to make sure that the expenses that we incur are eligible for reimbursement through different grants. So New York State has an engineering planning grant that will reimburse for the preliminary engineering report. But to be eligible for that, you have to issue a request for qualification. It's a very short, you'll authorize it, the clerk will publish it in our newspaper and on our website, asking firms to submit their qualifications. So we need to do things like that for a lot of our grant work. And it's really important. A lot of other people want to apply for grants, but if you don't do it correctly, then you won't get your money for those elements.
Didn't we actually, I seem to remember that we had a problem with the lead pipe thing, that we had pursued a grant, but we didn't send it out.
Yeah, so for
Wasn't
our
sent
water
out to bid.
district, we have two projects listed on the intended use plan, which is the how you get money from the state, but you have to score at a certain place. And both of those, the larger project, which is kind of everything in the water district, has a very low score. The lead service line replacement, we are on that IUP, and so we've tentatively been authorized for that money. It's $481,000. But you have to develop an engineering report first to use those funds, and that report has to be you have to get multiple bids, and you have to issue a request for qualification, so there's a number of different points for that. So I don't believe we're actually going to do an inventory of our lead service lines that require us to dig through and look at our pipes. No other town is doing that. Most towns are doing a paper inventory, listing them out, and then when, at the end of this year, VRI was saying this earlier, at the end of this year, they'll submit everything that we have, and there'll be unknowns for a lot of things.
Okay.
But on the grants, it's just really important that we understand what we have to do in the very upfront to be eligible to get reimbursements for what we do.
Okay,
Right?
terrific. All right, let's see. The letter of support for the Iroquois pipeline, the issue there is that the deadline for receiving letters is the end of this month. And we're not having another meeting before the end of this month. I sent information today, so I'm sure people haven't had a chance to read it, and I'm happy to send a letter as an individual rather than supervisor if people don't feel comfortable with that. The issue, I don't know if you had a chance to read any of it, but the issue is that the Iroquois pipeline exists, and it's pumping gas from fracked gas from Canada down here, and specifically the Cricket Valley plant in Dover. And and the pipeline exists, but the company that owns it wants to double the amount of gas that goes through it, which doubles the pressure. And that seems nervous-making to me, especially since it's going all the way from Canada through New England or through upstate New York to us. So I was, I felt sympathetic to them, and other towns, Hudson even, which I don't think is in the path, sent a letter or did a resolution of concern. But I think that the only way we could do that at this point is for, well, we couldn't, because we have to have a resolution, and we don't have a resolution on that.
Are they requiring a resolution versus just a letter?
Well, actually, maybe they only need a letter. I know that Hudson did a resolution, but I don't think that's required.
Yeah, usually,
Because it's just going to the governor, it's not going to, well, anyway.
it's up to the board. If they've had the opportunity to review it and they want to make a motion to do the letter of support, then just do the motion.
If all you need is a letter of support, that's fine.
Okay? Then I'll move that I'll draft a letter of support and circulate it to everyone, if people vote yes.
I haven't had time to review it.
Okay. So, does someone want to second the
I'll make a
motion?
motion for you to send a letter of support.
Okay.
If I just make one suggestion, if you're going to do the letter of support, then have it signed off by anybody who voted for it.
Okay. Yep.
This way, there's a signature line from each of the board members in
Yeah,
favor.
yeah. I think that's right.
So you made, oh,
Is that you?
I'll second.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmembers Revelard?
Abstain.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I'll send that out to everyone in the beginning of next week.
And you'll need us to come in and sign it? You'll need us to come in and sign it? Is that what Ian said?
You'll help them format that.
Did you
Yeah.
mean they have to sign off, or they have to sign it physically?
I would have, yeah, I would sign it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would sign it, because we don't have any formal written resolution from the, from the board. So if this is
So
being
just
written on behalf
let
of
us
the
know
board,
when
you
you're
should
ready.
have the members of the board signing it,
Okay.
showing that it was unanimous.
Great. Well, I'll send it to everyone first, and I can probably bring it around if you're not around. Okay, so the issue of the scope for the Comprehensive Plan Committee. Nicole very thoughtfully sent minutes out of the Comprehensive Plan Committee's. It wasn't their first meeting, but it was their first meeting in a long
Well, I'm
time,
just
right?
going to correct you too. It's not their minutes. Those are my notes.
Oh, your notes,
Giving
I'm
you a
sorry, not the
report.
minutes, thank
Yes.
you. Okay, those weren't minutes, but it was good to get notes right away. And it seemed like the Comprehensive Plan Committee, one of the things they wanted from the board was some direction as to how broad their mandate was. Now, they started on this project with the last board, I guess, so Brad and I were there, but the mandate, I guess, wasn't clear enough, and it seemed to be, or it seemed to me to be, that we were just asking them to clean up, or what was proposed by them was to clean up the language in the comprehensive plan, but not to make sort of structural changes to the comprehensive plan. So that meant, silo did not exist when the comprehensive plan was drafted in 2007. It was to update the information about Silo Ridge, for instance, that it exists. There was a lot of stuff like that that was just wrong in the plan or not up to date, and that was where this started. There are a number of other things that certainly could be addressed if we were to sort of do a broader review. The problem with that is that the last time that was done in 2007, it took 4 years to draft, and it involved basically everyone in town, having a whole lot of meetings. And I just think at this point, while we're overdue, and while I think there is stuff that should be thought about, I just think in light of all the other stuff going on, that it's just going to be a distraction from the other stuff the board is doing, and for the town as well, because it takes an enormous amount of energy. I was here for the last time. So my recommendation in that case, although we won't vote on it tonight, is that we direct the Comprehensive Plan Committee to stick to their original charge and to really just deal with the text issues and the updating of the existing comprehensive plan rather than changing the terms of the comprehensive plan. So I'll just ask, because again, we probably would need Ian to do a resolution for that. Is there anything in that in particular that you would, be important to you in terms of the way that resolution is drafted, or are we basically just saying that we want them to just make the text corrections that were factually not right?
I was just looking at this, and our original plan was to do just that.
Right.
And now we're talking about changing that. I agree with you that that's a huge job. The last one took 3 to 4 years.
No, I think the committee was just unclear, because again, it's been a long time since
Yeah.
they started, and it's not
They
the
have-
same membership.
They have new members.
And they have a lot of new
Yeah,
members. So.
exactly. Even more the reason to belay that. And I think
Okay.
we should stick to our original plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. So then I'll make a request for resolution to clarify that for the committee, if that makes sense to people.
As far as a direction to the committee?
Yeah, just
Okay.
to sort of, it was stated originally, but I think since they asked us specifically, we probably owe them an answer. And I assume that has to be by resolution.
We can talk about how we present it.
Okay.
But I
All right.
think it's important that we get, if they're seeking direction, then we should outline that.
Yeah, okay. All right. I skipped over number 10, sorry. No, I didn't skip over number 10, I'm sorry. Number 10 is next. Number 10 is that the sewer map plan report will have a CEQA resolution in it. That's part of what the engineers were hired to do, so that's in their in our agreement with them, but I just wanted to give you a heads up that the board would have to approve the SECRA resolution. I'm sorry, we have to come up with a resolution approving SECRA for the project in order to do our application for the federal infrastructure money. And that has a deadline in June, Charlie?
14th, yes.
June 14th. So we're going to need to do that once it's written. Or it isn't written yet, is it? It is written already. Okay, sorry. So then it may make sense to have a resolution next time. I'll have to send that information out to you. But the point is that we just need it for the grant we've already applied for.
If I can just make one request,
Please
Charlie,
do.
I want to coordinate that one with you as well. So all of these I'd like to coordinate with you.
Great. The other thing is the request for qualifications for the water district. We'll have a resolution next time authorizing that we send out an RFQ, but the reason for that is that VRI, the water operators, said that we had to resolve the issue of whether the groundwater, in other words, the existing pond that's next to the site on Lavelle Road, they need to know that that water is not impacting the artisanal water below it. And so they want to do testing for that. Charlie?
Do you mind?
Yes, no, please. You've been more involved in it of late.
So another thing has just come up from yesterday. So the wells 4 and 4A, which are at Lavelle, I think that we've mentioned this before, Dutchess County a month or two ago issued sort of a citation after a sanitary inspection that they needed to be tested for being under the influence of, potentially being under the influence of groundwater. To understand what that is, there's groundwater all around those wells, and to the extent that the groundwater is actually pushing through the bedrock and maybe sediment coming into the well, you have to test for that. And if it is found to be under the influence of groundwater, the direct influence of groundwater, you have to incorporate additional filtration elements to the system. So that requires we have to hire an engineer to create a procedure that then will be executed, and the procedure has to be approved by Dutchess County Health. Well 5, which is up by the storage tank, was, I believe, fracked by the previous operator and was never properly documented with Department of Dutchess County. And so Dutchess County yesterday came out and inspected that and have given us a list of requirements that have to be met for that well. That well is offline right now. So we will also need to hire an engineer to create a procedure for that testing as well. And that will be for water testing as well as probably testing earth surrounding the well.
Charlie, I have a question. When I first got on the board, I met with Marco, and he took me down to the Lavelle and told me what the problems were and why it wasn't viable there and et cetera. And not that I saw any reports, but did he have reports? And if so, are those reports available?
Yes, I can send everybody, we have so many reports. We have reports on top of reports on top of reports about Lavelle, about the whole system, about the distribution. His assumption, we also have a relatively, a very thin preliminary engineering report from John Andrews, the town engineer, regarding replacement or at least updating of the Lavelle Road.
Just the pump house.
Well, the pump house, not the
He said-
extension of the...
Well, that's what he talked to me specifically about, was the extension of the wells themselves and the pump house being flooded.
Yes. VRI is under, so VRI brought one of the engineering firms that we're speaking with to Lavelle yesterday, and VRI believes that the pump house can be, a new pump house can be constructed there and elevated,
Right.
so that it's outside of any flooding, and that the wellheads can be raised.
Exactly.
The wellheads may need to be moved because one of the wellheads currently is inside of the pump house, and that's, I don't believe, allowed by code now.
I should say to people, if they're not familiar with the Lavelle Road, water facility, that the pump house was totally rusted out, that the pump house is on a slab on grade, the building has no insulation, that the chlorine is stored in the building, which accelerates the rusting, and the wells are about 6 inches or 4 inches above the level of the pond. So it was I mean, we have a lot of swamp in Amenia, but that doesn't mean that was the only site they could have chosen for the well facility. And so stuff needs to be done, but what Marco had said to the board was that it had to be done by purchasing another piece of land and drilling new wells, which is a very expensive undertaking. And the people at VRI seem to think that we can just reconstruct what exists on Lavelle Road and do it for significantly less money. So that's sort of where
That was exactly my question, oddly enough, when I spoke to Marco about that. And his answer was no, so here we are.
I'm sorry that we weren't able to do that.
Right.
Right.
And again, I was very new and green to the town board at that point, so I wouldn't have known a difference. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and look, it's like the garage project, it's been discussed by many, many boards over many, many years, and nothing has happened except the cost has gone up, and now we have more issues there,
Right.
Yeah, and those two Lavelle Road wells combined produce almost all of the water for the district. They're very well performing. Yes.
Yeah.
And there was a mistake in the actual Andrews report that said they were, not a considerable element of the water distribution. That's not correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's just a heads up that we're going to need authorization to send out requests for qualifications. I hope we're getting to the end of this. We're also going to need an RFP to be published and distributed for the gym floor. I mean, I said that earlier, but that just is something that's going to have to be drawn up and sent out. And I feel like there's something, that's something else. And then the other issue is the change to the zoning use table around multifamily housing. So this came up, obviously, when we talked about the HRH project, but there is a kind of a weird kink in the way the comprehensive, well, not the comprehensive plan was written, the way the zoning was written. Suburban residential is the only district that doesn't allow multifamily, but there's no rationale in the zoning or in the comprehensive plan that says that. And I spoke to Bill Flood. I don't know, I should actually investigate who else was on the committee at that point that drafted that, but I haven't been able to get an answer as to why that was done. It seems kind of odd because we allow multifamily housing in agricultural districts, like everywhere else in the town, every other single zone except for suburban residential. And it seems really odd to me because a lot of the suburban residential districts are very close to the center of town where you would kind of like there to be, additional units. So, again, that's just something that,
I think one of the influences on that was density.
Uh-huh.
In other words, how close houses are together and how much land you have to work with. So that would be an influencer.
Okay. Well, I don't know if, Dawn, do you have a list of the people that drafted that or that were working
I
on
do, and the
that?
CPIC minutes, I do believe are posted online.
Okay. So I'd like to see if we can find anyone that participated, just to find out if there's any logic to that.
I can give you the list.
Okay, but my sense is that, that it's an unnecessary obstacle to having affordable housing in town. And I just think, the fact that it's that district only seems just peculiar to me and not entirely sensible. So I will try to get a little more information on the history of that, but I think it would be better for the town if we could have more density closer to the center of the town, which was the sort of point of, which was said repeatedly in the comprehensive plan. So unless I can find a rationale for that, that would be my recommendation, is that we make that change so that multi-unit housing is allowed anywhere in the town. It still has to go through a planning board review, but it would be allowed. Okay, that is all of that. The motions, which we already did one on the letter of support for the Iroquois pipeline, of support for the people who are opposed to that. There are two other things that No, one other thing, because we approved the CAC appointment earlier in the meeting. A letter of support for the Maplebrook traffic study, which I don't think is very controversial, and Rosanna will
I will
draw
make a
that up.
motion.
And you will make a motion, too, that we
Right,
send
so
that. that we
This is in
draft and send
regard
it.
to the crosswalk in front of Maplebrook School. It's a dangerous crosswalk. I spoke to DOT about having flashing lights and the radar speed sign put there to slow down traffic. And they said that they needed a letter of support from the town in order to move forward with that. And then the town wanted a letter of support from Maplebrook, and so we have that.
Which they sent, right.
And so that, I would like to make a motion then, that we write a letter of support for flashing lights and a speed radar sign out at the Maplebrook crosswalk.
And does that require a resolution? I mean, like, in other words, did the DOT ask for that or just a letter?
Well, he said something from the town. He did say resolution, but he also said motion, so why don't we go with the motion and see what that goes, and if we need to do anything further, we can do that.
Okay.
I would suggest the same fashion in order to get it out expeditiously, to make a motion to do the letter, draft the letter, and have it signed by all the board members.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. So I'll make that motion.
She made it.
Oh, I'll second that motion, sorry.
So we're all excited. Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilpersons Reblard?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we only have 2 resolutions tonight. The
50.
first.
Starting
What?
with 50. Number 50.
Oh, number 50, but 2 resolutions. I'm sorry, you scared me there. I thought, oh, Lordy, I'm not going to survive that.
You have to read them all, too.
But I do have water this time. Sorry, let me just pull that out. Actually, does someone have it open already? Because I'd be very happy for them to read it since I didn't pull it out.
That was smart.
Is that the Tower Hill one?
Yeah,
All right. well,
the Tower Hill one, right.
All right.
The multi-page one. He wants somebody else to read.
Oh, yeah.
You want me to read it?
Yes.
Yeah, if you
She's a
would.
good
Okay,
reader.
so it's resolution number 50?
50.
Okay. Awarding the contract for Tower Hill Road top coat paving project. Whereas the town board of the town of Amenia previously approved the paving of approximately 9,775 linear feet of Tower Hill Road, beginning at or about the intersection of Tower Hill Road and Route 22, and continuing along Tower Hill Road to the town of Amenia, the town of Washington town line. And whereas the town of Amenia Highway Superintendent has recommended providing a top coat to the previously paved section of Tower Hill Road to prolong the life of the pavement and reduce future maintenance. And whereas the town of Amenia Highway Superintendent obtained 3 quick quotes from the Office of General Services, Procurement Services, OGS state bid, to provide a 2-inch top coat to Tower Hill Road. And whereas the following 3 bids were obtained: A. Colarusso and Sons Incorporated, $232,400. Callahan Industries, Inc., $238,618. Peckham Materials Corp., $243,667.30. Whereas the town highway superintendent advised that the lowest responsible bidder was A. Colarusso and Son, Inc., and recommends that the town board award the contract to A. Colarusso and Son, Inc. in the amount of $232,400. Now therefore be it resolved as follows, that the recitations set forth are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. The town of Amenia hereby awards a contract for the Tower Hill Road Top Coat paving project to A. Colarusso and Son, Inc. in the amount of $232,400. The town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the contract documents to effectuate the terms of this resolution and to forward a copy to A. Colarusso and Son, Inc. after the attorney to the town has reviewed same. Funding this project will be paid from the Improvements EQ CHIPS budget line number 511 22.3.112 in the amount of $219,279.53, with a balance of $13,120.47 being paid from General Repairs CE budget line number 51104.3.0. I make the motion that we pass this resolution.
I'll second that.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Revler?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Okay. Nicole, you want to take a whirl at the other resolution, which is,
Resolution 51,
yes, moving money around.
transfer funds.
Transfer of funds, that's the one.
Whereas the town board has the authority to transfer funds when necessary or unanticipated to amend the budget, and whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing line 10104.01.48, town board CE conferences by 400 and increase 12204.01.48, supervisor CE conferences by $78.12 and increase 13104.01.40, Director of Finance account support by $5,000 and decrease 19004.01.49, special items CE contingencies by $5,478.12 for training for new elected officials in AFR and audit support New York State annual report. And whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing line 16202.01 buildings EQ by $2,595 and decrease 19004.01.49 special items CE contingencies by $2,595 for Town of Amenia signs. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board authorizes the transfer of necessary budget lines to process the transactions. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
And aren't you glad you joined the board now, Nicole?
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Revler?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Great. Are there any other matters people want to bring up?
There is actually a couple of things. After we tabled the emergency operations plan, I read through it thoroughly, and I have a couple of questions. Number one, it says that a public information officer, who is that?
Well, Dawn told me it's me, but that was the first I heard of it. So we are having a meeting of that committee specifically to go through sort of line by line in terms of stuff that, again, hasn't changed for many years. But that's a good question. Let me know the others. I'll bring them up.
Well, and the reason I asked that, because I think that should be the only person that releases information. There have been things that have been posted by other people, and it causes conflict and misinformation. So I think that when that is done, and that person, whoever that may be, should be the only person that's releasing information,
Okay.
whether it be on the community page, whether it be on the radio, whether it be via email or whatever. I think so the information is coming from one source,
Okay.
right? The only other comment that I had was, and we kind of talked about it, is getting that information out. And, there may be something in our own website already that allows us to do a blast, an email blast, or a phone system. No? Do you know whether or not it does? I mean, do we have to get another program?
We're currently in the middle of discussing that with our current vendor because it is posted on there, and we're just trying to figure out
How do you utilize it?
who's the one that pushes the notifications out. So, not that these are, I'm not jumping in, but we've already had this conversation this week. And they all are things that we are looking into to see how we can get it, who we can give it access to. We signed up for it ourselves to see what happens when you make changes on the website. Is it based off of updates on the website? So we're both trying to learn to do that. I do know at the end of last year, it was announced that we have that by the prior supervisor. So we're just trying to get our hands on how to do it.
Okay, and so, and then another question I thought of tonight when
Yeah.
we were interviewing, why isn't that emergency response plan on the website?
It's an inter-office.
It shows all of everybody's phone numbers. There's phone numbers in there that are, your employees' phone numbers that are not
Okay.
on the general website. And when you're talking about that specific document, that's the guidelines to your securities of what this course of action is going to be taken by emergency personnel. And I think that if you want to have when you bring up the public information officer, if Leo is designated to speak on behalf of all of you and he's representing our entire town, I think it's just, there's securities issues in there. If you really look at it, it's not just the step-by-steps. I mean, it could really open up the door for some additional comments then further down the line.
Okay, so then is there something that could go on that gives step-by-step? For example, one thing that I heard was that when they turn the water back on, when they turn it off, that, somebody said that you should turn on your faucet outside to release some of the pressure or whatever. I mean, so are there some directions that could be posted for people in case of?
And I think that's where this comes into play, getting the emergency group back together, getting them a little bit more familiar, giving those types of alerts, giving that type of information out. I think that's where we need to have, you guys need to set, where do you want to tell your residents to look? Right now, everybody's hearing us talk about the water, the water, the water. But sometimes when Megan has to close a road, does anybody know that you can visit www.ameniany.gov? Do they know that they can turn on channel 22? Do they know they can go on to YouTube?
That's exactly my
So
point.
I think that just throughout this last 4 months, there's been a little bit of a transition that who does what maybe, because in the past, we've always posted it on our website. So, Nancy, this is not like our first go around. Nancy knew to come in on Friday night to post it. And she called the supervisor. I mean, I think the chain that took place here did occur. I think it's just unfortunate that everybody's referring back to social media as the go-to, where it's a new time, so it's a new change for us. Currently, the Town of Amenia does not have an official Town of Amenia Facebook page, nor do we have any policies to run such a Facebook page. So with that being said, if you guys weren't here 2 years ago during my conference, that was one of the things that town clerks this was a huge 250 people in a room, and we were getting lectured on, basically, don't do it. Right? That's the basic thing to say, don't do it. Your Facebook page.
I was waiting for you to comment on
To
that.
say,
She took the words right out of my mouth.
so, and then here, but today everybody's on their phones with their thumb, right? And when that really became a highlighted thing, we found out our prior website wasn't thumb friendly. So that's how we got to this new, that's why we went to, everybody was complaining, the website's not good. So the prior administration went to the county, we were doing this program, and it's a little bit easier with your thumb. But now what's the problem? Everybody's complaining that you have to swipe, swipe, swipe to get to where you want to be on the website.
Well, there's another problem too, which is that expecting people in town to go to the website isn't the same as having an active response situation. I mean, that means that unless people are aware that there's a problem and decide, I better check the website. I mean, if people don't know there's a problem, or if there's something like the water goes off, and, I think that we really need to be able to contact people.
I think that we want to push the texting and the emailing out through our website. Let's try to keep, this would be my recommendation. We have a town website, it's being maintained, information is being uploaded. It is a great resource if you take 5 minutes out to look at it, right? Because I even made the joke, well, CPIC minutes are on our website. So I just feel like it's there, all the information's there. It's just a matter of taking a minute just to learn what the tools that we do have. I understand you guys want to make some updates, so I support the updates, but I think we have to understand what we have that may not be broken, that it just may need to be fixed. Sometimes when you have a beautiful home, you got to put another layer of paint on the outside. You just got to do it. We got to spruce it up. But the tools are there, but now we got to look at who's going to do it. And that comes back to the original question, which we did talk about on Tuesday when we were all together, you know, and I did joke with him, telling him that's his job, because he's the face, he's the town, he is who, you know, people come, this is town, I mean, you gotta go see, you know, Supervisor Blackman, and that's where you gotta have that one person. And I know it's hard for the board, I'm sorry that we're all not here tonight, but if you're relying on social media, you gotta remember, you're only getting sometimes part of it. So before we blow up social media and make comments, get your facts. Call the supervisor. He's readily available. He has an open door policy. Trust me, I barge in on him all the time. I know it's really open, and please just know your resources.
And I think we need to get that word out, because I think a lot of misunderstandings have come out of that, and a lot of anger and a lot of hurt feelings and misinformation. So somehow we need to come together on that and figure out a way, you know, if it's Leo, then it has to be Leo is the one that releases information, and if, you know, and if it's on the website, then somebody comes to me and I can say, check the website, or I can pull up the website when they're there and get that same information and not just say what I've heard.
Yeah.
So I just want it to be coordinated so people don't get upset and angry,
No,
you know.
thank you. I mean, no, and this is exactly the dialogue that our residents have to know, that we do have them, we do communicate, and we know where there were some faults during this last earthquake.
It was actually a
water
good
thing. I mean, it was
exercise to
it was
realize all
good.
the problems.
Well, and
Take
thankfully,
this as a drill, right? We all have
and
fire drills.
thankfully, nothing like this has probably happened to where it got to this point to where we couldn't notify people of the water district.
Well, I'm in the water district, and I look at this table, and there's no one else in the water district, and I've been faced with that for quite some time now. This is not the first time we've lost water,
Okay.
okay? It's happened before. We've put it on Channel 22. We've posted it on our website before.
So to your point,
this-
it's the this is easier.
That social
Okay.
media comments is what has caused such a stir that, you know, I have people laughing that are in the district. This is not our first go-around.
Okay.
When they flushed the hydrants, you know, sometimes you see a little sediment that when the first time you turn it on, you know, when Marco was there, so VRI is gonna do the same thing. They're gonna say, hey, Dawn, we're flushing in the middle of the night, the first week of May. Okay, no problem, we're gonna put it on our website. And when that happens is they put the notice up and it tells them some of those precautions. You know, so if there is a loss of water, you know, they give those helpful tools.
But-
That's where you have a water district committee.
Yeah, but I'm
Your
sorry.
water district committee could be educating.
You're describing everything that doesn't work.
Okay, so then together,
And
we're gonna make it work. I mean,
And
I think we
pull
have
up
to
the
make the
website.
steps.
I pull up the website, and even I can't navigate it, so, and I've been trying. But
So,
I,
but
so,
like you said, maybe we can tweak it. You know, like one of the things that I
Yeah.
found, it takes, you know, I don't know why the agenda and the minutes aren't together. I mean, why we can't have the meetings, and, you know, why do you have to go to a whole separate spot? It took me a long time to figure that out, Dawn. And granted, I'm not the sharpest tack in the box as far as that's concerned. But, you know, you're right. I mean, it may just be a matter of sitting down and looking at it and see how it can be made more user-friendly. I'm not being critical of anybody.
No, I mean,
I'm just saying.
The folks that worked on it, I'm gonna have to give them kudos for working on it. I mean, it took them many hours. They met with the people at the county, and then we were just trained on it. If the product isn't loved, then that's where this new group comes and loves it. Leo and Brad were here in the last format when it first went out. So if they're finding that what was done isn't working, let's go back to them and tell them this is not working.
Well, exactly right. Or, and then maybe.
I'm telling you,
we-
it's not working.
Yeah, no, so what do you want?
Right, the layout needs to change.
Yeah, so.
So then, you know, but these are things that,
There are three things, and Billy Flood mentioned one tonight about the $3,000 or $4,000 plan to have SMS or text messaging delivered to every household, or emails, have them on a database in a list. That's not that hard, it's automated. We talked about an informational sign out in front of the town hall, And one of my pet peeves has actually been mailings. So postcards, whatever, which is happening, by the way. Thank you, DJ. So those are three things I think that would make a difference. Or you would keep doing the same thing.
And it's fun because
Or you keep doing the same
No,
thing.
and we're not doing the same thing. And I'm going to have this dialogue with you because I want you to understand that historically, we used to do a flyer. This is not the first time go around sending a mailer out. Then the cost became an issue, and then they discontinued it. So this is not a new invention, right?
No need to get
sign
defensive.
request- No, but the sign request has been
But
sent
we need to
since
put
we
the money
moved here.
into things that would secure the security of our town.
Well, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
but look how long it's taken for us to even have this conversation about the signage out front.
Right.
But it's part of our code. Our code says we can't have it. But it was one of the very first things that we requested to have when we moved here. So you guys are a little bit more progressive than what we've had here before, and I look forward to you guys actually making it happen. And that's all, find it, make it happen.
And the other thing is, too, some of the things, like, Channel 22, I don't get Channel 22, I don't have Optimum. A lot of people don't have Optimum anymore.
And that's where you guys as board members can go out and tell everybody, you don't have to be watching Channel 22 live. They have their phones, which has internet on it, so they can be watching us live by visiting the YouTube, portion of our website, scroll all the way down, and it says Amenia TV, click it. They can be watching us live, and then beginning on Saturday, they can watch our reruns. Because Mike goes right home, he does whatever he has to do to technology to make it upload.
No, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about like when there's an emergency. So if you don't have Channel 22,
No, we need to.
We're going to work on it. We'll get the
Yes,
text
but we have to do something where we can, in an emergency, we can reach people and let them know what's going on.
So
We
there's a
don't have
cost
that, we can't.
associated.
Yeah, we
Just
do.
want to make sure our budget officers in the room, I just want to
Right,
make sure
but
you
we
heard what
could
they
always,
want.
there's something called line item changes, right?
They want texting. It's going to cost money.
Yeah.
Each mailing we do is $1,000.
Yeah, so, and that's the thing, but yeah, we can definitely do it all.
The mass messaging, though, that we talked about through the website, does that cost?
We don't, Leo and I are in the process of,
Okay.
I already sent it out, I've talked to him about it.
Okay.
He's now signed up for the notices, we're trying to figure out how it all works. We're
Okay.
Contract with,
Dutchess County. Remember, come tell them. Remember the gov delivery? I sent an email to Matt already.
3 years ago, the town board negotiated with Dutchess County to do the website redesign. That contract ends at the end of this year. The supervisor is looking at, redoing the website. With that contract, we pay money for a system that you can send information out. Nobody has ever worked with Dutchess County to do it. So you can sign up on our website with your name and your email address, and it just goes into the ether. So they will find somebody, but like everything else, we can set up a process, but then somebody has to be assigned to manage it. They have to be taught how to do it, and that's, the town board can decide that, but everything costs something. Nothing is free. So, that's all I have.
On a lighter note, senior swimming. So I did have initial conversations with the lifeguards, and they're willing to tack on an extra hour to the Maplebrook and the Maplebrook staff swim. I have to kind of confirm that with them on Tuesday, and possibly doing a Sunday afternoon. And Leo and I met with TJ Fazzone and Bill Hale on Tuesday, and made, looked into, some of the other aspects of that. So, hopefully we will be able to move forward with that.
Could be very exciting. Okay, anyone else have, are there any other town comments? Are there any town comments?
Nope.
No, then
But
I
I
think,
need to make a motion.
oh, please do that.
I need to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss Kent Hollow litigations, excusing the town clerk and the town supervisor.
Oh, wait, there's something first, right?
Yeah, we're
There's
going to go
another
into
issue
executive session to
first.
discuss Morning Sun Farms first with the entire board. Thereafter, we will excuse Leo and invite George Lithgow on the Kent Hollow litigation.
And if you're going to do it, can you do it on that phone? Have Dawn teach you how to do it? So-
Yeah,
so I
and
don't-
is there a second?
Thank you.
I'll second.
Night.
He's here.
Oh, okay.
Good night, thank you.
Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Council members Rebelard?
Yes.
Ham?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Okay, the time now is, oh my goodness, 9:08. And I offer the